All right, hello everyone and welcome back to another Black Desert video. So today I wanted to talk about the hardcore servers. And I didn't want to make a video on day one simply because I wanted to actually, give it a fair shot, give it a few days and experience it just so I can get like my thoughts and ideas together. So I made a little bit of a list of, things that I had issues with, and overall I want to give constructive criticism because I want the hardcore servers to be good, but in its current state, it's, it could use a lot of work. So I had a video recorded that I'm going to be playing just as background. And quite honestly, it's just, I don't think it's going to be the most interesting, but you guys can see what it's all about. So let me go play this. Just keep in mind the first little bit is just me talking. So I played a warrior, right? And there were 4 classes for at least this season, right? I assume they're going to shuffle a lot of the classes around in future seasons. But one thing they decided to do for season 1 was add 4 of the OG classes: warrior, berserker, ranger, and sorceress. And this might have worked better if we were back in like 2016, 2017 when the game came out on the NA server. But quite honestly, with the current balance, which I think overall we should be playing on current balance, not what it was before, it just makes it feel like some classes are straight up better than the others. And I guess to start off, when we all think of hardcore servers, we probably think of World of Warcraft hardcore, where people are essentially like 1 life. If you die, you reset. And I understand that Black Desert doesn't exactly follow that rule because, it's a little bit different. But when it comes to like hardcore servers, what is it really? So basically, every day you have a 2-hour limit to, go around PvE, PvP, and essentially, instead of it being like a hardcore server where you have 1 life, it feels more like a battle royale. So for any of you guys who have played like Fortnite, PUBG, Call of Duty Warzone, and all that stuff, it's kind of like that, but a more simpler version. And quite honestly, I hope for the future that, they take everyone's feedback and just improve it in the future. So let's talk about what people are doing on the hardcore servers right now. So people log in, they get this daily quest, right? It's like kill 150 enemies or something like that, and then you get the points in the game, right? And then you can exchange the points from the hardcore server to your non-hardcore server character. And like the thing in the game where it's like you exchange the event currency for prizes, it's kind of like that. So the one thing that people are doing is like going on PvEing, killing 100 enemies, turning that in, making like almost 1 billion silver a day, and then logging out. So I'm like, that defeats the purpose of it. But let's talk about what else the hardcore server has to offer. So the concept of it is, think like, battle royale. You get a big open zone, which would be Valencia in this case. You're running around a desert. There's green safe zones, as you guys can see on the map. Like if you see the green wall, that means you're in a safe zone. If it's red, that means you're in a like outside zone. You can PvP, kill enemies and all that stuff, get points. And that's essentially this entire concept. People are just playing it, going on the server, doing the daily quest, and then logging out. First things first, you have 2 hours to play on the server every day. I understand why they did that, because like not everyone can play 18 hours a day, so they wanted to keep some sort of level of balance, especially because there's a leaderboard with it, and so everyone is on an equal level. But one thing I think that they should change, and kind of like the Marnie realm in current Black Desert, is you basically go in and then your timer goes down. The way it works is once you go in, you have 2 hours. No matter if you disconnect, you log out, that 2-hour time limit still goes out. So one thing I think they should change is if you log out, your time stops. You have 2 hours of playtime no matter what, but it doesn't work like that. And quite honestly, it really just depends on when you play during the day, because there's one hardcore server. Everyone is on that, and usually there's either a lot of people or it's completely empty. And I understand that in most games, it's not even just a Black Desert issue, that most people do not play games for PvP. That's just how it is. It's not a Black Desert issue. It's just any online game across the board. So I don't fault them for that one. So that's why we have the thing where people are going on PvEing, killing random enemies for like 10 minutes and then logging out. I still think that it works a little bit differently, and they should add more to it, and there's just quite honestly not a lot to do. So if we're watching this on screen, basically we have some gear, right? It's like gear that is just exclusive to hardcore servers. Everyone has like 500 AP and DP. I don't even know how they picked that number. It just, you know, apparently it's in their balance system with who knows how they got to that number. It is what it is. But with that said, in every patch note I've read for the past 2 weeks since the hardcore server came out, or like, I don't think it's been 2 weeks, it's been like 1 week. The Global Lab note says they're basically changing Warrior, Sork, and all the 4 basic classes that are currently on hardcore, which I think is a good thing, that they're taking the balance of PvP and, you know, adjusting it to the live servers, which that's great. With that said, I don't think this is really a good, you know, way to do it, because like people are wild. They have gear that you are unable to get on the live server. And so I don't know how that number comes into balancing. So next thing I wanted to talk about was the entire arena, I guess. So the hardcore server. So I mentioned that we were all on the Valencia server. Like, you know, it's in the middle of the desert. You're wandering around. There's a bunch of enemies and groups everywhere. And then you can fight other people. That's cool, right? It just feels like the area is too big for the amount of action that's happening. Like, you're mostly running from point A to B, and it just feels kind of boring because there's not much action. There are... Okay, so how do I put this? I don't know if I show it in the video. I probably do. But if you look on the map, there's essentially like open fighting areas. There's a bunch of safe zones that you respawn at. And then there's a place to turn in your points, right? So it goes to your main, you know, non-hardcore server. Like respawn points, there's world bosses that spawn every now and then. And you could see on screen how there's like a leaderboard. You get, if you kill people, you get more points, right? That's how it works. Very simple. But like, you barely even find anyone, and even if you do, like the top players, they show up on the map, right? And it's just like you barely even find them. You could see on video too. I went outside of the safe zone, you know, looking for PvP, trying to do anything. This is my first time, by the way. This is from day one, and I'm just like trying to explore and figure things out. And look how empty it is right now. They really just need to make the arena or the entire desert area a little bit smaller. And then, like, this is the PvE. This is what you do. You kill groups of like 5 or something. And so you see a number above my head, right? That's the amount of points you have, right? You get points by PvPing, killing other players, and as well as killing groups of enemies over here. Yeah, you could see I have no idea how to play Warrior. I should probably learn that at some point, actually. And for all of you OG Black Desert players, you'll know we had a game called Shadow Arena back in the day. And that was like, it felt like more of a real battle royale game. So it's like, we all know what it is. Pretend Fortnite is probably the most common one. Let's use that as an example. And like, that game is actually fast-paced. There's a lot to do. There's a lot in the world. There's always something to do basically every minute, right? And back even in Shadow Arena, which was by Prolibus before, there were like buffs you can get, and there was just like pretty fast action, and you can actually play more than 4 characters, which is pretty exciting actually. So this just feels like a step down from that. Being on hardcore, it's really just not what people expected. I just hope going in like season 2, they kind of tweak all this around and it'll be a lot more fun. But in the current state, I understand why people just go in PvE for 10 minutes and then they're out. So yeah, we talked about how they can improve it, just adding more to the server in general and just like stuff to do. So with that said, class balance has always been an issue in Black Desert. Any of the 4 classes going forward, like even if you haven't mained any of them, never played them, I think Zerker is probably the most overall good class because it just has a good kit for survivability, decent damage, and easy to play. Warrior coming in second with very strong blocks and pretty solid damage. Ranger's a good one. And then I would have said in 2016, Sork was really strong. Nowadays, of the 4, I would say they are the hardest to play. It's not that they're bad, they're just like of the 4 hardest to play. So we have 29 classes in Black Desert. The fact that they only gave us 4 for season 1 is kind of wild. The least they could do is like give us 8 of them and then cycle between like 8 every season or something, maybe 12. So that way more people who there's a chance of having like their main class in there. And I think that would just been like overall, a better experience. And for people who want to learn, it helps people learn new things and how to fight against different types of players and different classes in general. So what you're seeing on screen right now is the light thingy. Basically, that is where you could turn in, all your stuff. And that's it. Also, speaking of that, once you turn in your points and like your exchange for the day, you cannot go back onto the server. So whether you're on there for 15 minutes, make your turn in. Once you do that, you're done. Why? That I have no idea. That's like one of the dumbest things I've heard. So I'm like, okay, what could we do to change that? When you log out, just stop the timer. And that literally fixes it. You have 2 hours. 2 hours of in-server time, and that's it. That's how it should be. So let's talk about gear, the buffs, and everything else, like the PvP experience. So there's a few different types of gear in the game. There's the green gear that you get, like the one I'm using in this video is like 500 something AP, is whatever. Then you get like blue and then gold tier gear. It's actually significantly better. And I don't know, it's just like you have to play a lot to get it to the point where if you have it, chances are you are just better than the other. If like 2 equal skilled players, one has green gear, one has blue, the person with blue would chances are win every time. So yeah, the gear balance is a little bit weird. Then the buffs that you could find around the map and then the world bosses, it just does not seem balanced. It's like, if you've ever done Arena of Solaire and they add buffs in the map, those usually make the person like basically god mode essentially. I just think they should remove the buffs and make that either like PvE damage only or something, which I don't even know. I just think they should remove the buffs across the board. I know it gives like people who don't know how to play their classes as well the advantage, but if someone who gets it like knows how to do what they do, they're just unstoppable. So yeah, I think it should have a little bit of a skill gap, but like at the same time it's kind of overtuned. And then the world bosses just kind of spawn at specific times. Is like you have to be at a certain place, and even then people are just like fighting the bosses. Whatever. It used to be like old back in the day when you went to world bosses like Zarka, Karanda, and all that stuff. You could actually PvP during a world boss, and then they turned it off. I didn't mind that. Like I liked it when you could just PvP. You would still get a penalty for going red during a boss and all that stuff, but the fact that you could do it just kept everyone on their toes. And then I think that's acceptable for a hardcore server. I understand, like, on the regular why people don't want it, but if you're playing a hardcore server, you know what you're getting into. You can't just accidentally wander onto this server. So I think that's all fair game. I think that's fine. But people don't play like that. It's just like, feels like the generation difference, if we call it that. But with that said, the last thing I wanted to talk about, and you know, what else do I feel playing the server? If you were looking for like the hardcore experience, more or less, and just more PvP action, I would literally just do Red Battlefield. Go onto Arsha, and that's actually a better experience. Go to like a meta grind spot or somewhere that's, you know, decently known on Arsha. And one, you could play the class that you like. There's probably more PvP action, and there's like more kinds of enemy types than what we're looking at on screen. So I'm just like, why would I play hardcore if I could just go to Arsha? If I really wanted PvP, I would be doing node wars and everything. Or just go to RBF if you just want something you could do in 15 minutes and then you're done. But like the hardcore, it just seems like it's underwhelming. And I really want it to be good. I didn't want to bash this just because it's new. I wanted to give it a few days just to see, like, oh, are there a lot of people? Quite honestly, we're about like 4 days into it, and I barely find people on the hardcore server, or at least at the time I play anyway. And it just feels kind of underwhelming. So anyway, with that said, that's all I wanted to talk about. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys later. Peace.